I wanted this job bad. This place has been kicked, it's been battered, it's been bruised, and I can sit up here and give you coach speak all day long. Knock us down, we're going to get up, and on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off, all right? And we're going to stand up, and then it's going to...
We the Detroit Lions. We the Detroit Lions. Stop playing with us.
Y'all give me a chance to showcase what I can do when they try to bury me, dog. But they can't bury what comes from the dirt.
They grab first down. That's gonna do it. That's gonna do it. That's gonna do it. Jared Goff delivers a good Detroit. Stand up. You waited for this.
The Lions won again, bitch. You know the Lions won again.
I wanted this job.
What up, Go Lions? Welcome to Motor City Ball Knowers, Episode 2, your home for authentic analysis, laughter, commiseration, and takes on our favorite topic, the Detroit Lions. We got our co-hosts, Hesser and Scott, and I'm producer Tim. We're lifelong devoted fans to Detroit Lions. We bring you our passionate, unfiltered takes on the team. Stay tuned for our bi-weekly episodes and analysis of the games once the season gets roaring. Let's go, baby. What up? Episode 2. Hesser, Scotty, how we feel? Little technical difficulties, but we're here.
We're here, boys. 26 minutes past projected start time. Little technical difficulties on my end, but we're good. We're feeling good. How we doing, Scotty boy?
Doing great. I mean, I was actually the original one with technical difficulties. We're on a new device here. Better camera quality. That was one of our number one feedback items was, hey, Scott, you have poor camera quality, the lighting for producer Tim and Hesser. That first off, we appreciate all of the feedback, all of the positive, the negative, the constructive criticism. It was awesome to see everyone coming in and viewing YouTube, liking, subscribing, commenting, friends, family, colleagues, whoever it may be. It's awesome to hear, you guys checking out episode 1 and riding with us going forward for episode 2 and beyond.
30 subscribers, man. Want to shout out all our subscribers.
Much love. Yeah, just to echo Scott, we really appreciate it. It kind of got more legs than I think maybe I thought it would, which is really cool. And we're really doing this to be a source for Lions fans who might not be able to be as tuned in, plugged in as we are on a consistent basis, especially in the off season. So we're hoping that the bi-weekly schedule and bi-weekly podcast rollout is good for everyone. So we're
people who have other hobbies other than just looking at Lions Twitter and just ingesting all sorts of NFL content all day, every day. So
real quick, guys, just a quick producer stat: 313 views on
313.
That's great.
That's it. Big piece of feedback too was more producer Tim.
Yeah,
I love that.
Consistent feedback. Yes.
We want more producer Tim, who not only is a producer but also is a ball knower. That's why he's here.
I love ball. I'm a ball lover, trying to be a ball knower. And I also want to say to all the Irish Americans, Irish people in Ireland, and everyone in between, happy St. Paddy's Day. So yeah.
Hope everyone enjoyed that.
Right. Yeah.
Well, let's get into it, boys, because a lot has happened since the last time we chatted 2 weeks ago. Hard to believe that the roster is completely different than the last time we talked, which we knew that was going to happen, right? Free agency, legal tampering opened up last Monday, one of our favorite days of the year, legal tampering, which I'm gonna spin off for a sec. I don't understand why legal tampering is a thing. Like, why don't they just have the signings start on Monday? Because you have this weird Max Crosby thing happen that was agreed upon, but then fell through at the very end of the end of the league year before the new league year. Like, why is there a legal tampering period of 48 hours? I don't get it, but it's one of those weird NFL things.
It's bizarre because, and also the way the NFL structures it too, where free agency falls before the draft, but then you look at a league like the NBA, it's the exact opposite, where the draft comes before free agency. So you can just weird intricacies of the rule of the league and how they structure things. I don't really understand it either. I do know there was a new wrinkle this year where teams were allowed to actually visit with the players, or vice versa. They could maybe host a player rather than in the past, it was only through agents. Like the legal tampering was only agent and team contact. So I know this year, I think they were allowed to have more direct player contact. So interesting wrinkle that I read, but yeah, a ton of fun. I mean, last Monday, we get together, our second annual legal tampering day. We like to see what's going on, hawking Twitter, watching NFL Network. What the problem is though with this regime, the expectations need to be low because as we know now, this is year 5 of watching Brad Holmes navigate a free agency. He's not going to be active. This is he sits on the sidelines, he waits, he kind of lies in wait, and he'll make maybe 1 or 2 type of deals. And
I'm out.
What's up?
I want to call you out, Scott. You can't say he's not active. I think the wording is the splash, the big signing. Go on. I apologize for interrupting.
No, you're fine. Hold on. Is this like a timeout? Are we gonna have to like edit this
No, I
out?
thought that was Coach. That was Coach Hesser.
Oh, dude, I thought you were saying you're having like technical difficulties.
Oh,
so
no, sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, that Coach Hesser kicked in, man. That was not.
Oh my God! Because
sorry, everyone,
huddle up. That was not an inactivity.
We're coming off a big scrimmage against Brother Rice.
Yeah.
And I'm still in coach mode. So I
we got
apologize.
to.
No, we're good. We're good. I just from earlier when you were giving
hold the phone, man.
Episode 2, we're still working through it. We're working through it. Keep going, Scott.
But for sure, I was just gonna say more in terms of I think fans get really excited about, oh my God, look at the free agency list, and you look at guys such as Trey Hendrickson and say, couldn't the Lions go after him? But we talked about that on episode 1. The likelihood of that is very low. Yes, he'll go and make some signings. The roster, there's going to be turnover. There has to be. There's free agents that we lose, guys we trade, guys you need to fill holes on the roster. There's never going to be the big splash, the big name guys that other teams employ that strategy, and the Lions won't and don't under this regime. So, but I think I would love to start discussing some of the guys that we did bring in. I think the number one guy, the guy we gave the most money to, is Cade Mays. JD, take it away. Where do you stand on Cade Mays?
Yeah, but before diving into that, I just want to add on, Scott, like everything you said is great. I agree with. But the philosophy of spending big in free agency, typically you see it with teams that are bad the year before, and they're bad because they probably haven't drafted well and haven't been able to pay a lot of guys. So they have a lot of cap money and they need to spend it. Patriots are a perfect example of that. They spent a ton of money last offseason, and in a year they saw 3 or 4 wins, whatever it was, to a Super Bowl. So there's different ways of doing it. There's different ways of building the team, and it's very clear what the Lions are doing. Brad Holmes literally has told us, draft, develop, extend, and that is the philosophy for the way that they build this team. So that's more of a draft related topic, but it plays into the way that the Lions attack free agency. So I think that's important to just kind of level set. In terms of Cade Mays, I really like the signing. Center was the one position that I really wanted to attack aggressively. Didn't think Linderbaum was an option, and McGovern and Biotic got scooped up before legal tampering even started. So you're really kind of down to Cade Mays and Linderbaum as the top 2 guys. I really like the contract. I like the fact that he is still pretty raw. He hasn't played a ton of snaps at center. He is young, and that's another theme that we are seeing with this free agency class in general is the Lions got a lot younger, and we'll see if that pays off or not, if that's a good strategy or not. But they said goodbye to Graham Glasgow and Anzalone and Amik and Al-Quadin, all these guys who are 30 years and older, and brought in a bunch of mid 20-year-olds. So I love the Mays signing. I think it's a really good value. You're getting 3 years of Cade Mays for the price of
Less
1
than-
year.
less than 1 year of Linderbaum.
Of Linderbaum. And I know, Scott, you were not in the Linderbaum camp. I was, strictly because I wanted to attack that center position as aggressively as possible. But Mays makes the most sense with the free agency philosophy, and that contract is very team friendly, I think.
It's reasonable. And they were never going to pay Linderbaum that type of money. And we knew, at least I predicted he was going to take, top of market, set a new market at center. I didn't realize by that much. He exceeded, I think it was Creed Humphrey was 19 or 20 million. And I mean, Linderbaum is now at 27. So even if you're projecting him at 21 or 22 million, he way overshot that. So the Lions were never going to pay that. And we discussed, you were on the camp of let's sign a veteran center, someone in the league with years of experience. I was maybe a little more hesitant thinking we go through the draft, but after kind of thinking about it more, that makes sense. You bring in someone, it's such there's a lot of not just physical, but mental, you're calling out the blitz assignments and things. The center is such an important position in this offense. Ragnow was the reason this Lions offense and offensive line was so strong for the years that it was. So I'm with you there. And bringing over Ratledge from guard to center never made sense to me. No. I know the team discussed it, and Holmes and Campbell still were saying it was a possibility as of 2 weeks ago, which again, I found bizarre, and I'm glad that they're not going with that route. Keep him at guard, let him develop there. So when we discuss this philosophy, and we talk about the youth movement, right? So you got guys, Anzalone over 30, Al-Quadin Muhammad over 30, Khalif Raymond over 30, and they're all gone. And we also talk about Glasgow and Decker. Same deal.
Nothing wrong with being over 30, by the way.
Yeah. Hey, we're all on the wrong side of 30 ourselves. It's prime time. It's prime time. But maybe for an NFL player, it may not be. And I'd rather be 1 year early and on moving on from someone than 1 year too late. And I think the Lions have made a very clear message that they want to be younger. Everybody we've signed, everybody that they've targeted to sign is 25, 26, 27. I think the most recent signing as of about an hour ago, DJ Wanham, I saw he's 28. I think he's the oldest guy we brought in. Yeah. So it's a clear youth movement. It makes sense to me. And also just in terms of overall philosophy, one point I do want to make, if you're going to be on one end of the spectrum where you're an aggressive spender in free agency, you're going to be on the other end of the spectrum where you're very conservative in free agency, I'd much rather be on that end, the more conservative side. Most of these deals in free agency are typically fool's errand. It's money that you look back in those contracts and be like, oof, that's a lot of money for a player who they don't live up to it quite often. So
and good teams aren't going to let their good players go to free agency. So it's rare when you get like a Linderbaum situation where you have this really young guy who's at top 3, top 5 in his position that hits the market. Hendrickson is also obviously a hot name that people wanted here, but again, older guy coming off of an injury plagued season. Free agency is exciting and we love it, but it also is fool's gold is a great way to put it. There's no better word in my mind of what it actually is, and very rarely do you see a New England Patriot type of offseason that leads to the next season that they had. I remember the Titans a few years ago spent like a ton of money.
L'Jarius Sneed,
and now
he just got cut.
They're cutting all these guys. So like, I think for the audience, that again is maybe not as like thinking about it all the time when free agency comes and says, oh, why don't we get Trey Hendrickson? I don't want people to freak out about it, but I think there is also reason to raise questions around the way that the Lions attack certain positions and position groups. And maybe that's a good segue for us to talk about the elephant in the room, which is outside of an hour ago, our starting edge rushers were Aiden Hutchinson and Ahmed Hassanin, a 6th round rookie who didn't play a snap last year. So Scott, talk a bit about that position and the last 5 years of data that we have from Holmes and his roster building from free agency to draft. And like, why do you think this is not something that is more aggressively pursued?
Well, we do know Holmes doesn't look at the edge position as with much priority. In my opinion, there's a certain type of player he looks at there too, and it's one that's stout against the run, can play on all 3 downs. But as we've talked about on episode 1, the Lions have had a long track record now of rushing the quarterback very slowly, being literally dead last in time to quarterback and affecting the quarterback's time to throw. Does that lead to change? And we see, okay, the defense clearly isn't up to snuff. We have to make changes. I think that's something that good GMs and good teams do, is they adapt. They say, okay, this is where I've been wrong. What do I need to deviate? What do I need to change? And there's evidence, there's data that shows what you need to change. But it so far, we're not seeing that willingness to change, because our edge room now consists of, again, Hutchinson. Now DJ Wanham, let's just call him what he is. He's a journeyman. He's going into his 6th year in the league, 7th year in the league. He's a
depth piece. He's
a depth piece.
20 snaps a game. Hopefully. No offense, DJ. I love you. Welcome to the Pride.
Yes, DJ Wanham, we're pumped to have you. And it's nothing. It's very confusing to me, because you have these massive shortcomings, these pitfalls that plague the team over and over again. It puts so much pressure on the defensive backs playing man-to-man, and you're not getting home to the quarterback. The quarterback is all day. You watched it on Thanksgiving, Jordan Love just sitting back there chucking it around. I don't know. I'm starting to lose patience when it comes to what Holmes does with the edge room. And it's so glaring and obvious to me, and it should be for other fans too. Let's try to spin this for me positively, JD. Why should we trust Holmes in this when he clearly just isn't? Edge is clearly on the bottom of his position group priority. For what reason? I don't know.
Yeah, I can spin most Brad Holmes related qualms. This one I can't. I don't know what the plan is. My spin is there has to be something that they know that we don't know, because you cannot go into the season with this edge room. And this isn't going to be it. This isn't going to be the only move. An edge at 17 could happen, which then takes you out of the running for a tackle at 17. We'll talk about tackle situation here shortly, but I can't spin it, Scott. I don't agree with it. I don't understand it. And that time to quarterback stat is really damning. And what doesn't make sense is not addressing that position does not line up with the way that they have wanted to play defense the last couple of years, especially with AG. That man-to-man in your face, like we're gonna beat the crap out of you with our DBs. Cool, I love it, but we got to get to the quarterback to make their job easier. So it just those two things don't add up, and it's like, what's the most important position outside of quarterback? Maybe left tackle, you could argue, but I would say edge. The guy.
But why is left tackle? Why is left tackle important?
Because you need to protect the quarterback. I'm with you, Scott, on this. There are a lot of things that you and I don't see eye to eye on. This is one that I just don't have the answer right now, because I don't know. If they bring in a Cam Jordan and draft an edge with one of those first 2 picks, I'll feel a lot better. If they bring in a Bosa and address the edge with one of those first 2 picks, I'll feel a lot better. But now what they're doing too is they're putting themselves in a position where they're going to have to draft for need, which they've also been very loud and proud about, not drafting for need and drafting good football players. So at some point, there has to be some philosophical change in the way that this team has been built, which, by the way, let's not forget, this roster is still really freaking good. This team has been built to last and to sustain itself, but there has to be some philosophical change, or else we're going to see the same results that we've seen the last 3 years, which is not a Super Bowl.
The defensive.
Yeah,
of course.
What do you say to fans who think that these offseason moves, this conservative approach to Holmes, points towards a rebuild? Or I mean, I'm just like, I mean, I saw like the kind of mumbles of rebuild. And 2, is Aiden Hutchinson enough? Because, there's also the ACL thing. I mean, like, that's just my casual conversations with people go to those 2 places. So
97-1 has been callers that come on and freak out, and they've been, chattering about, hey, it's 2026 kind of a reset year, a rebuild year.
Yeah.
And I don't buy that at all. Especially look at the schedule. You're coming off a 4th place finish. That, if anything, that was the reset year. So we just had that. 2026 needs to be all systems go. Get this thing back on track. Open the contention window. Get that window open again, right? So I don't buy that narrative at all. Because there are calls I'm hearing them over the last week and a half here. They say, "Oh, I think they're setting up 2027 is going to be the year." It's like, no, that's not at all. And I don't buy that Holmes or Campbell have that mentality either. By no means do I suspect that. Especially again with the upcoming schedule, it's a cakewalk. It's a breeze. We're not as close to the Patriots in 2025, but this upcoming schedule sets us up very nicely to win the division again, host a playoff game, and the expectation needs to be we're reopening this window and we need to get back to right on the doorstep of the Super Bowl.
It's not like anybody in the North has made a major splash, really.
They can't. I mean, Green Bay did last year with Parsons.
Right.
That was their big move.
Who'd the Vikings get at quarterback?
Kyler, which is interesting. He's a flawed player, though. And Tim, the other second half of your question you brought up, is Hutch enough? Absolutely not, because if Hutch is the only guy on your D line that teams perceive as a threat, they're just going to double and chip him, and his life is I don't know how this is. We talked about it 2 weeks ago. Look at these Super Bowl teams. They're loaded and deep on the defensive line. They can rotate guys in. They can mix and match, put them in different spots. And right now, for whatever reason, the Lions aren't. Holmes thinks he can do it his way. He thinks that their ways, they're cool, they're good. I'm going to do it my way. It's a little arrogant. It's a little cocky. You haven't done anything. You haven't won anything yet. So
there he goes. He's getting fired up.
Yeah, I'm getting a little antsy here because it doesn't make sense. And again, we keep looking at these Super Bowl teams, the teams that contend year in, year out. More often than not, their defensive line is loaded, and so ours just simply isn't.
Let's think about that psychologically for a second, right? You do something good, you want to do it again. That's natural human psych. Holmes is drafted an all-pro running back, an all-pro receiver, an all-pro tight end, an all-pro tackle, an all-pro edge rusher, an all-pro linebacker, and an all-pro free safety. So, and Scott, I know your rebuttal to that. He's been blessed with some good draft capital, which he has. Part of that Stafford trade that he helped make.
Fell right into his lap. Let's be real.
It did, but he still had to execute the trade, right? And he still had to sign off on LA. He had to get the pick. So, yes, we know the story. Stafford and McVay, the honeymoon, yada, yada, yada. Lions did right by Stafford by sending him where they wanted him to go. And Holmes got a good return. So when you draft that well, every level of the field, we have Brad Holmes has drafted an all-pro level player. It's hard to argue the draft and develop philosophy when you draft as well as he does. He's had misses like every GM does. Where to me, again, my coach brain comes in. It's okay, we've done a lot of really good things, but what's missing, right? Where can we make that one adjustment that's gonna help us win one more game, right? Or win or do something a little bit better. And that is where we're not seeing it. And I thought maybe this offseason, after what happened last offseason, maybe this free agency cycle would be where we see him sign an Uche or Quiddy Pay for 3 years, 20 mil and go get one of those guys. It obviously didn't happen, and it's not going to happen because all those guys are gone. So then it's okay, are we gonna roll the dice again on
someone who's injured, like a Marcus Davenport,
or relying on Hutch to play 90% of the snaps, and then you bring in a rookie at 17 or 50 to play heavy snaps. I just don't love that. And that, again, we'll see what the roster looks like. We'll see what the roster looks like in July, but as of right now, we're trending towards that.
There's still some money that can be
concerning.
they restructured Goff's deal that created, I think, what was it, 20 or 30 million in cap space, which I think a lot of that is earmarked for extensions for Gibbs, Campbell, Brian Branch potentially. And I do want to give Brad, you brought up a great point. All those positions, all pro, all across the field, whether it's D-line, linebacker, defensive back, tight end, running back. And I got to give Holmes his flowers. As much as I like to criticize and point out the warts, Jahmyr Gibbs and Jack Campbell in the first round was not looked at as smart. It was very much like that was push. There was a lot of pushback there. Those were great picks. Those were home run picks. Sam Laporta was not a consensus tight end one in that draft. He took Laporta, and look at what that's brought us. Kirby Joseph and Amon-Ra, fantastic picks. The issue, the double-edged sword, is that inflates his confidence of, my ability to choose in the draft. I'm such a good drafter. Look at me now. I can sacrifice picks. I can trade up for guys, and we can save a lot of that for the draft episode that we're going to have next month. However, I just think it is inflated. It's a double-edged sword because it's not a bad thing to draft good players. I want to make that very clear. At the same time, it can inflate one's self-confidence to keep doing that over and over again, where there's a lot of data. And again, we'll cover this in depth next month when we're doing a draft episode. There's a lot of data that shows that drafting, there isn't really a skill to it. There's not. It's just extremely, extremely hard. But
so let's stick down the free agency line. Let's talk about. I want to talk first about the guys that are gone, that we lost, and I also just want to shout out all those guys because they played pretty big roles here the last couple of years. So since the last episode, Taylor Decker came back and then asked for release. Weird, unexpected, but when you look into that, it's pretty clear they probably asked him to take a pay cut, and you didn't want to take a pay cut.
I think they thought he was. I think they thought he was retiring, and then that news kind of took them for a surprise. The front office. That's my.
Yep. And then Khalif Raymond signs with the Bears. That one hurts. I love Khalif, but again, it's like we probably drafted as a replacement last year in the 7th round, Dominic Lovett, kid from Georgia, who will probably assume a lot of those Khalif snaps. And let's not forget we traded up in the 3rd round for a receiver who needs to get snaps and needs to get on the field, in Isaac Tesla. And then Anzalone gone, which I think we all kind of assumed was going to happen. Amik gone. Another guy we all kind of assumed. Amik got paid too, dude. Like,
yeah.
Shout out Amik.
Good for him. Yeah.
Yeah. And Lopez is the one I think that probably stings the most for me, just because he made a pretty significant impact from day one last year, and $5.5 million a year over 2 years. Like, I would have loved to get him back, but I don't know, Scott. Any of those guys I mentioned that are gone that you feel like are irreplaceable, or you think we can find some guys?
Lopez is the one I want to highlight, and every other guy that is gone, again, we've pretty much talked about, is either above 30 or. This is the one I want to highlight. That really stings. Just a reminder, he played for the Cardinals before coming to the Lions for his 1-year stint, and he's from Arizona. So that may be one of those where it didn't really matter what money we threw at him. He just wants to be home. So let's just, it is what it is. I don't know. I don't have any knowledge, or, I don't see any rumors on that, but you can kind of connect the dots and see that makes some sense. Outside of Lopez, I'm not really, let's say, distraught over any of the losses. Anzalone, it was very clear from last year's training camp when he was kind of holding in, whatever you want to call it. The team wasn't going to pay him the money that he wanted. They gave him a slight little pay bump or whatever, but they weren't giving him the long-term deal, the extension. So the writing was on the wall there. And that's a position where, again, he's on the wrong side of 30, and you've got an all-pro linebacker, Jack Campbell, who's your green dot. He's the guy. So nothing really, but in the guys that we've lost, again, it's very clear the direction they're doing is this youth movement. And we can talk about some of the defensive backs we brought in. That's Roger McCreary, a 2022 second-round draft pick. He was an All-American at Auburn. I found that to be interesting. I didn't know that until the other day. And then another defensive back from Tampa Bay, Christian Isian. And these are guys, again, they're 26 years old, and they're going to come in and play, some important snaps for us, whether it's special teams, depth defensive back, if we're not bringing back someone like Avonte Maddox, if Rakestraw is not ready to contribute. Those are guys that are ready to step in. And I want to give a shout out to Aubrey, good friend of the show, big Titans fan. He said Roger McCreary, his from his stint on the Titans, came in, went about his business, was better in the slot. So look for him to potentially be a slot corner for us. Those are two guys we brought in. I know
that's that Amik role.
Amik role.
Really.
And McCreary is gonna fill that role. So it's a clear youth movement, and that's something in a vacuum I have no issues with at all. We know this league, the shelf life is not very long for players. So the younger you get, guys can potentially make more developmental steps in their careers, get better. They're on the ascension rather than being on the decline, right? And, Khalif, great stint for us. He was one of the longest tenured Lions. I think he spent 5 full years here. He came in right with the Campbell and Holmes regime. But also, he's not getting any faster at age 31, 32, and his speed is his weapon. So, good luck in Chicago. Not too much good luck, but
actually, no luck. Actually,
individual. Hope he individually.
Yeah, I love Khalif, and
do some games.
I'm on Raz pretty vocal about him being an amazing teammate and role model. So it'll be interesting to see from the culture leadership perspective too, like all those guys, and then Glasgow and Montgomery and who we talked about in the last episode, and obviously Decker, leaders of the team, and they're kind of handing that over now to these guys that they've drafted and they've invested in. Panay, Hutch, Gibbs, Campbell, like all these guys, St. Brown, it's their team now. And I think that's interesting too. Talking on the other side of the ball quickly, some of the guys that we brought in, a good friend is back, Teddy Bridgewater. That's hype. I know producer Tim is fired up about that.
He had an amazing year in commercials and ads.
Yeah.
Impressive. Yeah. The backup. And didn't he have a really interesting story with him? Like he was coaching youth football or something.
Coaching high school, yeah,
in Miami, and he got in trouble for like buying a kid food or something. Like he broke some rule because he was like buying a kid.
Would you do that if you had a hungry player, JD?
I would. I'd break.
We support you, Teddy. You're a good backup, and you make that QB room better.
People forget Teddy came in for one snap in the playoff game against the Commanders, and it was a touchdown.
Long touchdown, the reverse to JMO, right?
Yeah. So that's I know that, but for real, people for some reason in this town, people love to freak out about the backup quarterback position, which in my opinion is like it's like the vice president. Like if you become the president, that means something bad happened. So if the backup becomes the starter, maybe you get you squeeze a couple games out of that. But if it's long term, it doesn't matter who it is.
Because we remember Dan Orlovsky. No offense.
We're
on my TV screen every day. We can't forget Dano.
I met Dano at a lacrosse tournament last summer. He was a really nice guy. Had nice things to say about our hometown in Birmingham.
Speaking of hometowns, we've got a hometown kid that returned to the area, and Larry Borum. I think that's an interesting signing too, because again, we're going to talk O-line. We already kind of went at Cade Mays ad nauseum. JD, where do you stand on the Brother Rice product? Larry Borum, Mizzou kid. Shout out Meehan.
Well, fresh off a nice victory over Brother Rice a few hours ago. It was a scrimmage, so unofficial, but our guys played great, so that was good.
ECD lax, baby. Go Jackets.
Go Jackets. Shout out to the boys. Absolutely balled out tonight.
Shout out to the dogs.
The dogs. But Borum's interesting to me. What honestly is most interesting is the amount of money that he's making, which he's making $5 million, up to $5 million. That kind of signals that maybe they think he can start at tackle. And what I assume is going to happen regardless of taking a tackle at 17 or not. And I think if you don't take a tackle at 17, you're not going to find a day one starter. Like there's not guys in this draft that you're going to get at 50 that can start. So I think Panay is going to move over to the left. I think that will happen. I think you're going to have a battle at left guard between Scruggs, who we just acquired, Mahogany and Frazier, which I think is a good thing. You have your center of the next couple of years with Cade Mays. Tate Ratledge, I think, takes a big step next year at right guard. I actually think Tate is going to be very solid. And then right tackle is the question. So back to that contract with Borum, $5 million a year. That's like a little
It's
bit
not
more than you.
insignificant. It's not
Yeah,
insignificant.
it's a little bit more than you'd pay a backup. So what that tells me is, again, if they bring in a guy at 17, it's no guarantee that that guy starts. I think they feel like Borum could start at right tackle, and that leaves, again, if you draft a tackle at 17,
So can we
Manu's
talk? Yeah, I was going to say the competition you're implying is between hypothetical 17 or overall pick and Borum. Why isn't the competition between Larry Borum and Giovanni Manu, who was drafted 2 years ago as the developmental project tackle? This guy's supposed. It's year 3 now. This is where
maybe
he's supposed to be. This is where he's
maybe it
supposed to be.
is. Maybe it is.
Should be.
We don't know what they're gonna do at 17. I know you want edge.
It
I
has to
still
be
want
edge. It has to be edge.
I still want tackle because I think it's a really good tackle class. I think you could get a anchor there for the next 10 years to go with Panay. We'll see. We don't know. But the Borum deal is interesting. I would not be shocked if he starts. And then yeah, Dan Campbell, one of the things he preached in his off-season presser was competition. And that left guard spot was a big weakness last year. It wasn't great. You have 3 guys hypothetically that are going to compete for that if they stay healthy. Right tackle, I assume that Panay moves to the left, is going to be another spot where you probably you're going to have at least 2. You're going to have Borum and Manu, and maybe a third, round 1 rookie competing at right tackle. So I think it's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
At the very, if you do get Manu winning that battle, or you draft a rookie at 17, Borum is he's a pretty solid depth guy. Like he's a good backup.
Yeah.
Um,
I want it on record. I think the competition should absolutely be Borum versus Manu. At this point, as we touched on at the beginning of the episode, the edge room is so empty. You have to go first round and second round at edge. We can talk that more on the draft episode. I agree, though, in terms of competition with where you have it in left guard with Frazier, Mahogany, and then Scruggs. And looking at right tackle, it's going to be, I think it should be between those two. And then if it doesn't go well, then that's 2027 draft. You're looking at, the right tackle there. And Panay going to left makes all the sense in the world. A couple other guys to highlight offensive side of the ball. Isaiah Pacheco, great short yardage grinder. If he's healthy, I think it's a great kind of second, number 2 to Jameer's. I mean, Jameer is he should be probably the first or second pick in all fantasy drafts. He's going to get the ball a ton.
Oh yeah.
Montgomery,
especially after this sign in.
Yeah. Pacheco's just there. He was great in short yardage. Anything, 3rd and 4th and 1. I think he was like 15 out of 15 or something like that.
Yeah,
if I saw the stat correctly.
He was better than Demo, which it's not all on the running back. You got to block it, but I love that stat because that did seem like something this year that.
I mean, the kid runs so hard. He runs hard.
Yeah, those 3rd and 1s, 4th and 1s that we would try to run just didn't seem like we were getting them this year.
And I think stylistically, Demo is kind of, you think, okay, he's the bigger back because you just compare him to Jameer naturally, but he is shifty. He's more he kind of has the east-west thing, and Pacheco is, I'm running into your face, north to south. He doesn't mess around. And Demo was good. And this is not a knock on Demo. Demo was really good at kind of, wiggling a little bit and getting shifty. He wasn't necessarily the north and south just battering ram where Pacheco is. He's just gonna come in, ram, go face to face. And then Kyler Conklin, I thought, was an interesting signing. Shout out Chips, fire up Chips, Central Michigan kid.
Shout out Glazier and Ryan Law.
Shout out Glazier, Ryan Law, Grinblatt. So That's a good. I think that's a good tight end too. He's been in the league for a while. He's has a couple good years receiving wise, and I think it's a good tight end too. I think you still draft another one, probably in the 4th or 5th. But those are the big signings. I think we've covered everybody now. I've got the defensive backs in there. We finally signed an edge tonight. They knew where we were. They knew where we were recording tonight, so they had to make a move at edge. DJ Wanham, welcome to the squad. We're excited to have you. I think
is Conklin at all? I mean, is Laporta? I know we're not speculators, but is he healthy for this year? Is he live?
Those back injuries are scary. I mean, you have to hope, but I think it's one of those things where backs are notoriously finicky and tricky. But that's something. Again, do we trust this medical staff to get it right? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. By the way, about Tyler Conklin, played a little college b-ball at Northwood, where I believe you guys used to do Seaholm football camp.
We did camp at Hillsdale, but Hillsdale and Northwood had some battles.
JD, we did go to Northwood freshman year. You weren't on you didn't play freshman year, but yes,
we did. I believe Jeremy Altman played at Northwood as well.
Yes, that is the JD. Wow.
Get me to Northwood.
He's ready.
Strap up. JD's ready to strap up.
And for the ball knowers out there, I if you've seen me distracted, it's because it's 2-2, top of the 9th, man on second in the USA Venezuela Maduro battle.
Oh geez, that would be a tough stretch for Venezuela if we get them in baseball too.
I know. They need this, man.
All right, so should we wrap with a couple fan questions and
hit the mailbag.
Shout out Otis.
Shout out Otis.
Odie? What up, Odie?
Yeah, let's wrap with some of Tim's favorite mail questions. Maybe we take 2.
Yeah, let's do it. Because it's his birthday, the birthday boy, Jason Cricket. We got a sweet question. He is chilling in Palm Desert, Cali.
Ooh, that sounds nice.
Wow.
He wants to know if the Lions had an opportunity to trade for a top 3 QB, would you move on from Jared Goff right now, even after what he's done, or ride with him and keep the roster intact? Kind of a wild question from Cricket.
Yes, so that's a good question. I mean, top 3 QBs in my mind are a healthy Patrick Mahomes, probably Josh Allen.
Yeah.
And then I love Burrow.
I put Burrow right there.
Lamar in that?
Lamar's at this stage of Lamar. He's not the same player he was even like 2 or 3 years ago. He's not running anymore. He's not. I'd rather have Goff than Lamar right now. That's maybe a hot take, but
so that's an interesting question because
Burrow's almost there. Burrow's yeah.
You have to think about what that would take to get that quarterback, and man, I'd probably say no right now just because I don't, and I'm not saying I don't want Patrick Mahomes to be the quarterback of this team. I'm thinking GM had on, okay, what is that going to take? What does that look like? How does that impact the cap and all that? I just don't think quarterback is the problem.
For sure.
That's so much lower on my list. If we're talking about Myles Garrett, different answer.
Well, you blow the roster up for that a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So I say no. I'd ride. Scott, what about you?
So the answer, I'll take the question and kind of narrow the focus. Kansas City and Buffalo aren't moving on from Mahomes and Allen, respectively. Joe Burrow is the one name where there are some rumblings of him being unhappy. He had some cryptic tweets or stuff he'd say in press conferences last year. Cincinnati's just a total mess. So you could see the scenario. You could visualize Burrow asking out, similar to what Stafford did here in Detroit, right? If that were to happen, let's say it's next offseason, in a year from now, Burrow says, I'm done. It's another year. He's getting sacked. The O-line's terrible. The Bengals underperform. That's one you move. I think you move mountains and you make it happen. So Burrow, in my eyes, we've talked about Goff. Goff can get you to a Super Bowl. It's kind of hard for that to happen, and you have to put a lot of things in place correctly and swing and connect in a lot of places. You can't make other mistakes on the roster. You can't be devoid of talent in a lot of positions. I view Burrow as someone, he's younger, and he can actually ascend a roster and make everyone around him better, where the talent necessarily may not be up to snuff. He doesn't necessarily require that infrastructure. He kind of makes that infrastructure. So
I guess the hypothetical trade then would be,
yeah, you
Lions
move
get
mountains.
No, I'm gonna say, Scott, yes or no, are you doing this? Lions trade Jared Goff, JMO, 2 first-rounders, 2 third-rounders for Joe Burrow. Are you doing that?
2 first-rounders, 2 third-rounders. So you're saying we're going to pay even more than and JMO? Why? I feel like you just put like the Goff Stafford trade on steroids. Just how about can't we just do it like?
Because I think because Joe Burrow is better than Stafford and younger.
Yeah, but Jared Goff is younger than
But everyone,
okay, that's the trade. That's the trade you put on the table.
That's the trade.
But yeah.
Okay, take away a 3rd round pick. Goff.
Yeah, that 1 3rd rounder really.
Not that it would matter, because Holmes would trade it for a developmental defensive lineman.
We'll trade him for Broderick Martin or Gio Manu or
a special team.
Yeah, I would. When I say move mountains, I mean that. I'm not gonna guess. I get too caught up in the trade. I would try to keep JMO. That would be my number one thing. I'd say we got to keep the 2 receivers for Burrow. But let's say, I would do that. I would trade multiple 1st-round picks plus Goff plus some extra to land Joe Burrow, who's younger and better, and who I think is more of an elevator rather than just kind of a. I'm not going to call Goff a game manager, but he's not the talent elevator that I consider Burrow to be.
Given the current state of the roster, assuming let's assume that we sign Cam Jordan or Bosa. Let's just say that happens. Current state of the roster after that signing, would you trade Goff, the 17th pick, next year's 1st, the 3rd this year, 3rd next year, and JMO?
The JMO piece is probably the one where I would get stuck on, but we're close. We're very close. But yes, if Joe Burrow were to become available, we can figure out the exact compensation thing. If Joe Burrow were to become available, if I were Brad Holmes, I'd be making phone calls and trying to figure out what they want.
So then your theoretical like opening day lineup is Burrow, obviously Gibbs, St. Brown, Tesla, Laporta.
The boy, the wonder boy you traded multiple picks to move up for. He better step up. Like
we love him. Then Panay, whoever wins that left guard battle, Mays, Tate, Larry Borum, Hutch, Aleem, Tyleek, Cam Jordan, Campbell, Barnes, Reed, Arnold, Rakestraw, McCreary.
If you do trade JMO, that does free up some money too. So that's something to keep in mind.
Very impressive roster roll call there, by the way.
Yeah, Jay, well done.
Yeah. Good. All right. Good question. I feel
a great question, Chris.
I feel like it's probably a no, and then miracle circumstance for Burrow if it opened up.
Yeah, I'm sure Burrow would love to play in this offense.
Yeah. All right.
I'm excited to hear about our friend Nick with 2 cats from who lives in Brooklyn. I know.
All right. I was going to give the final question to Gary Moss, but we'll toss it. We'll toss it to Nick.
No. Give it to Gary.
Nick's going to come in with better questions for future episodes.
Nick's got to earn it.
On notice, Nicky Rez.
Nick's got to earn it.
All right. So this is the last question I'm going to give to Gary Moss, and his question is on a grade for Bradley Holmes. This one's for you, Gary.
Grade.
So far, and this is Gary Moss, a podcast inspiration to me personally. He's a podcast innovator from Movies Magic and United Gamers. He's in Rochester Hills, Michigan, and he wants to know, what grade would you give Bradley Holmes so far on his free agents? Yeah.
I'll kick off this one. I'll say B, again, because of just the overall youth movement that I fully jive with. So I'm happy with it. And I think Cade Mays addresses the need of center and having that position filled. I'd rather it not go to Tate. Keep him at guard. I'm a fan of the youth movement. I'm a fan of getting younger and bringing the new blood. The reason why it's not more like B plus, A minus, what are you doing at edge? Again, there's still time. There's still edges out there. Like there's still the Bosas, the Cam Jordans, the AJ Epinezas out there that we could wake up tomorrow morning with that signing. Do I see that happening? I hope so, but I see it as doubtful. So about this free agency class, I'll give it right now a B.
That's decent.
And I'm kind of the Holmes hater here. And I'm totally okay with the strategy so far. I think we've moved on from pieces that we should move on from, where I think in past years, maybe we hang on maybe too long. You show a little bit too much loyalty. I want to give him credit there too with the Glasgow and Decker decisions, because those are not easy decisions.
Yeah, I'll go on the number scale. I'm probably in between a 6, 7. I'm probably in between a 6 and a 7.
That's a C plus, C minus.
Yeah, I guess so. And that might be surprising coming from me, because I do like a lot of what has been done. Like some of these depth pieces, getting younger, attacking the center position. Like he's done actually everything that I have wanted him to do. Literally everything, with the tight end, the backup QB, center, getting in a depth tackle that might start, couple of guys in the secondary. It's the edge position, man. Until that gets addressed, I can't get to that B plus, A minus level, just because it's such a glaring hole and weakness. And maybe that's not fair, because free agency is not done yet. The draft hasn't happened. So the question was right now. That's what I would give it right now. Probably a 6. I'll go 7. I'll go 7 out of 10. If we get a Cam Jordan or a Bosa, it quickly goes to 8.5. And then if we do some things in the draft, and I'm hoping we do, we could be at a 9. Like this could end up being a really good offseason.
And I alluded to earlier, there's still money to potentially be restructured with Panay and Amon-Ra. So you could clear out more money. That's something that could bring even more moves, not even outside of edge. You sign another edge, and then you also go get maybe another offensive lineman, or you find another tight end. But right now, the way the roster is shaping out, Rodrigo was brought back at linebacker, so you've kind of got a room there that you've paid Derek Barnes. Jack Campbell's an all-pro, and you've got Rodrigo. Those are 3 solid linebackers that have been in the system for multiple years. Every level of the defense, and I would say with the McCreary and Isian signings, hope I'm pronouncing that right, Christian. I apologize if I'm not, but you can even make the case that defensive back is looking pretty good too.
We forgot about Rock. Yasin.
Rock is back. I
love that.
Every level of the team appears pretty much set. QB, we got Pacheco at running back. We've got the receivers we all know about. We're tight end. Conklin's in. We're probably going to draft another one maybe day 3. Every single room in this building is great besides the defensive line. But the defensive line is so important. As we've highlighted, it's such a glaring hole, and it's an important hole. You can hide a bad safety room or bad defensive backs if you're loaded on the defensive line, because you're just getting after the quarterback, making the defensive backs' lives easier. It's impossible to do that in inverse, right? So without a good defensive line, it only makes linebackers' lives harder. It makes the defensive backs' lives harder. It makes them have to step up and be even better. So I don't know. I hope that there's something behind the scenes cooking up that Brad's got that we have yet to be seen. And in a week or two from now at episode 3, we can say, oh, well, that was the vision. That was the plan. But right now I'm not seeing it. It's not aligning that way. So
we gotta see what happens in a couple weeks, and hopefully, like you said, our next pod we are celebrating Cam Jordan, Bosa, someone. Those are the 2 I keep coming back to. But great, good stuff, boys. I think
Stay tuned, y'all. That's a pod.
That's a
the
pod.
pod, boys. Well, happy March Madness week.
Pod or a show? Did we do or what?
They're both. It's interchangeable. It's a pod. It's a pod. It's a show. It's an episode. It's whatever you want to call it.
Therapy.
Tim, question for you. Who do you have cutting down the nets in your March Madness bracket?
I'm going Michigan State over Michigan. We can't lose to that. The controversial take. I don't fill out a bracket, man, because I'd rather just try to win money in squares, to be honest, and then root for my team or whoever I see. Yeah. And I just don't follow. I only follow the Big Ten basketball. So I don't know what's going on. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll fill out plenty of brackets in your absence, Tim. I do this year I'm trying to do 20 and kind of take a portfolio approach where I'm just, 25% do 20. Yeah. Maybe not that many. I've placed 3 out of the last 5 years. It's just kind of annoying because it's my own pool that I run. So I feel a little bad. And I'm trying to find other pools to enter that aren't my own that I organize because I don't want to keep winning my own pool. So I got second place last year. I didn't get first, but I enjoy the strategy, the game theory behind it. Especially there's just so much data, Ken Palm, all that stuff. But Michigan State, I want to highlight, we got screwed with our seeding. The one year that the committee decides to take the Big Ten tournament into account, they vault Purdue over us into that number 2 seed out in the West. And it's a pretty easy region. Obviously, you have to travel out to San Jose, but you get a pretty weak 3 seed in Gonzaga. And of course, they placed Michigan State as the 3 seed in Duke's region, despite having a better overall record, a better conference record. And we won in West Lafayette in our one head-to-head matchup at Purdue. It's whatever.
Duke is we played them hard early in the season. If State's hot, I think they could beat a lot of teams.
We're missing one go-to shooter scorer. That's one.
Scott and Kurt Tang or whatever. They just that. I get nervous. Our offense is just not ticking. I love Jeremy Fears, but
we're missing a guy on the wing that can just kind of give him the ball and he can either go get his own bucket or he's a lights out shooter. It's just, it's hard to, if you get a couple games where Scott and Tang go off, then you can beat anybody. That's the fun part about it. Michigan State can definitely beat anybody, but can they do it for six consecutive games? That's tough. We'll see.
Yeah. How about you, JD? You'll get the final word.
Well, I just filled out my bracket last night. It's a little wonky. I've got Houston taking down Iowa State.
Oh, cool.
Little Big 12. I'm kind of a Big 12 hardo.
Yeah.
And I also, our good pal Peter, shout out Peter, who's definitely a ball knower.
Big time ball knower.
We played some future bets late on a Saturday night not too long ago.
Nice.
So we've got a future on Texas Tech to make the Final Four, which is tough considering their best players out for the year and they're in Michigan's bracket. And we've got a future on UConn to win the Natty, which is tough emotionally for me because that would mean they would beat Michigan State most likely.
Yep.
So that's what I got. I'm just pumped to watch.
Yep. Me too.
Nonstop.
Yeah,
this is
like the year. It's the best
such a fun.
I'm staying in the
weekend.
Plain, Illinois casino for a night. I'm doing some travel, so I'm excited. I'm going to be. Wisconsin doesn't allow gambling, so I will be in a casino Thursday night overnight. So
all right.
I'm keeping that open.
Be careful. Be safe, Tim.
Yeah, I will. Yeah.
Casinos are dangerous, man.
What do you mean? Well, we'll talk about that another.
We'll talk about that offline.
Be safe, dude.
Yeah, dude. What happened at the casino, man?
I don't know. I gotta hear this one.
All right, this has been Motor City
Last time I was
Ball
at a casino was in Cincinnati, and David Bender was in a wheelchair. So
Drinking milk.
Nothing wrong with that, dude. Yeah. All right. Well, this has been Motor. We're at an hour. Motor City Ball Knowers episode 2. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Adios. Thank you.
Adios.